Okay, welcome back to the Exercises Medicine Journal Club. I got a little bit of a small cold, so bear with me a little bit. My voice is a bit hoarse. But if you like what I say, give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. Maybe tell me why, or, do whatever. Uh, so today we'll be talking about actually one of my favorite subjects in neuroscience, which is neuroplasticity. For some reason, we didn't even learn about in med school, as far as I remember. We talk about things I really didn't care much about, like Argo Robertson pupil, or as Dr. White, my neuroscience professor, would say, prostitute's pupil, which is a sign of neurosyphilis. In this disease, the patient's eyes, they don't react to when a bright light is shined very close to their pupils. There's supposed to be what's called a light reflex, where the pupil constricts, it gets smaller, but this reflex isn't present due to the underlying neurosyphilis. So there's just a random tidbit for you guys. Why not? So we're also going to be talking about a topic related to genetics in the next video. But don't worry, guys. There's no Punnett squares or pedigrees here. So that's going to be epigenetics, and that'll be in the next video. Let's go over neuroplasticity a little bit. We'll start with the scientific definition, and then an analogy that might make more sense. So the scientific definition is neuroplasticity is a process that involves the structural, functional changes to the brain as a result of adaptation. It's the ability of the nervous system to change its activity in response to intrinsic or extrinsic stimuli by reorganizing its structure, functions, or connections after injuries. So things like a stroke or a traumatic brain injury, some sort of underlying pathology. However, it can also assist in the process of acquiring new skills and abilities. So right now, I'm actually a full-time investor. So believe me, I need all the neuroplasticity I can get. So might as well just share my findings with everyone else because I'm doing this work for myself anyway. Um, I also have a finance channel that I will be putting some topics to discuss up on soon, so stay tuned to that. So in addition to neuroplasticity, there's also maladaptive plasticity. So neuroplasticity is generally regarded as very beneficial. Maladaptive plasticity, as you may guess, is the exact opposite, where you get a whole bunch of negative symptoms. So a prime example of this is something like phantom limb pain. It's a very interesting phenomenon, not necessarily related to exercise. If you want to know more, you can look up Dr. V.S. Ramachandran on YouTube. He's done a lot of work on this. He's basically the pioneer in that field. Um, so let's get back to the analogy for neuroplasticity. Uh, so think of your brain as a vast network of kind of interconnected roads. These roads represent billions of neurons in your brain. They're constantly being built, paved, repaired, depending on how you use them. So that dynamic process is neuroplasticity. It's the foundation of how your brain learns, grows, and basically adapts throughout your entire life. So it's very important. So neuroplasticity manifests itself into two key aspects. Structural plasticity, which is the ability of neurons to grow new connections, branches, and even strengthen existing ones. So this process is basically adding new lanes to the roads, allowing for more information to flow. This is how you learn the new skills and adapt to new experiences. Functional plasticity is the ability of neurons to change how they function. So this is like adjusting the speed limit or the traffic light on your road. So it allows you to use existing connections more effectively to forge new pathways to compensate for damage or learning new skills. So this type of plasticity happens all the time, even when you're not consciously trying to learn something new. So your experiences, both positive and negative, play a crucial role in reshaping your brain. When you engage in new activities like learning a language or playing a musical instrument, you strengthen your neural pathways associated with those activities. This is how you acquire new skills and knowledge. So similarly, when you experience trauma or injury, your brain can reorganize its connections to compensate for the damage, which is basically neurogenesis. This is how people recover from strokes or regain lost ability after an accident. Neuroplasticity is honestly a remarkable phenomenon. It demonstrates the brain's extraordinary ability to adapt and change. It's the reason why we can learn new things, overcome challenges, and even recover from the most severe types of brain injuries. So next time you face a difficult task, remember your brain is not fixed or predetermined. It's always evolving, always adapting, but you need the right state of mind. Um, so how do we take advantage of neuroplasticity in terms of exercise? So during exercise, Brain-derived neurotropic factor, BDNF, is a protein that gets released. BDNF promotes the growth, maturation, and survival of neurons. It's basically the holy grail of neurogenesis. And it helps strengthen the connections between neurons, essential for learning and memory. So there's a direct link between BDNF and lactate. So lactate is made through anaerobic glycolysis, which I will definitely not be covering because I am not a fan of biochemistry. Um, so what are activities that can increase BDNF? So as you might have guessed, exercise. So that includes aerobic exercise, resistance training, and actually the best is probably high intensity intervals, which I can go over at some point later on. Um, so let's briefly go over some of the research on neuroplasticity. So a decent portion of this is actually adopted from Dr. Huberman's podcast on YouTube, which I will link it below as well. So David Yeager at University of Texas at Austin, he did work with Dr. Carol Dweck, and they published a study in July of 2022 called "The Synergistic Mindsets Intervention Protects Adolescents from Stress." Before we get to the nitty gritty of this study, let's define some terms. So these are definitions directly from the study. So a growth mindset is a mindset that promotes appraisal that difficulties can be controlled and are actually helpful. So it argues that most people who become good at something important, they had to face something, overcome struggles, and because you overcome those struggles, you are no longer deficient in your abilities, and now you've become proficient. It's an immensely important path towards skill development. So the intervention also had the stress is debilitating mindset. So this is the belief that argues that stress is inherently negative and compromises performance, health, as well as well-being, which this might be the basically conventional definition that is in the non-medical world. So this mindset leads to appraisal that a given stressor is uncontrollable and harmful. So counter to the stress of debilitating mindset, the intervention developed introduced the stress can be enhancing mindset. So this is the belief that that stress can have a beneficial effect on performance, health, and well-being. So this is a significantly more adaptive belief system that leads to the appraisal that stressors can be helpful and controlled under the right conditions. So when people undergo challenges, they inevitably begin to experience stress, and this can manifest itself in a racing heart, sweating palms, and possibly feelings of anxiety or worry. So the intervention leads people to perceive that these signals are information that the body is preparing to overcome the challenge, actually, for instance, by giving more oxygenated blood to the brain and to the muscles. So the stress response is now framed as something that's helpful for the pursuit of a goal, not necessarily harmful now. The intervention also argued that feelings of anxiety can be a sign that you've chosen something meaningful, ambitious, something that you want to work on long term. So, something that gets you a positive trajectory, not a negative one. So, this study was pretty big too. There were more than 2,000 subjects in total. So one of the main conclusions was that when students learn about the stresses and enhancing mindset as well as the growth mindset, and then confronted with stress and tests across the board, results were that they essentially performed significantly better. And the only real intervention that was done is they just did a single 30-minute self-administered online session kind of teaching about these mindsets. So high school students were told simply to anticipate a stressful event beforehand, but beforehand, they were put into a control group where not much was taught at all. But the experimental group was taught about the synergistic stresses enhancing mindset and growth mindset. So the experimental group showed significant buffer against the typical stress response. So I'll briefly go over one of the experiments, which was actually pretty interesting to me. So this was the Trayer social stress test. Subject comes in, You tell them I need you to wait for a little bit. In the meantime, you get their saliva to get a baseline cortisol. You get their heart rate. You get their blood pressure. You tell them that they're going to have to perform a speech in front of a small group. And then during the speech, feedback is given in the form of a frown or arms crossed. So, kind of setting off something that could be leading to nervousness. They're also given a pop quiz with arithmetic. Um, and they're told in front of an audience when they're wrong. So, and during this time, measures like psychological and physiological activity were taken, like blood flow. Um, in just about all 6 experiments, simply learning about the proper mindset improved study participants' performance. The conclusion was the intervention's buffering effect against a negative self regard on high stress days was 40% larger. And it found that the synergistic mindsets intervention increased the overall rate at which students passed core classes by 14.4 percentage points. So this is a direct example of neuroplasticity, right? Difficulty, struggle, frustrations. They're not signs that you reach your limit. They're signs that you're actually expanding your limit. Stress is not a sign that you're not learning. It's a sign that you're learning a lot. Um, the takeaway is this: perception is reality. You can perceive the exact same thing, increased heart rate, as something that's stressful or something that's beneficial to allow you to tackle the task at hand. So, of course, exercise is also very important because what's going on there? You're seeing an increase in heart rate. There's mechanical stress on the body. And if you eat properly and train properly, you're going to come back better than you were before, be able to handle more stress than before. That's neuroplasticity. So, stress, when perceived positively in the longer term, can actually also increase testosterone levels and estrogen levels, to the contrary of what is out there in the non-medical world. Cortisol is also regarded as a nasty stress hormone. Like, yes, when cortisol levels are elevated for long periods of time, they can be detrimental. But that's honestly a very simplistic view, uh, and we honestly need cortisol. There's going to be another video regarding stress management and theory, and I definitely didn't learn about this in medical school either. I actually learned about this in my exercise testing and prescription class in exercise physiology. So that specific topic is general adaptation syndrome, and that's basically my job as a strength and conditioning coach. Is basically manage. How do you manage stress in order to take advantage of stress at different times throughout the year in order to peak performance during the playoffs, finals, whatever the goal is for the season. So, thanks for tuning in. There's going to be a follow-up video at some point on this topic as well. I'm going to end with 2 things. If you exercise properly while everyone else is getting older, you're going to stay younger forever, essentially. I got the data to prove it as well. There's going to be a video on that too. Um, I'm not old. I'm 33, and honestly, I feel like I'm getting close to the best shape of my life, and I'm only going to get better. If you remove the little excuses, oh, it's raining, I can't go out, it's cold, I don't have the time. Um, if you remove those little excuses, you'd be surprised how much time you can actually get in terms of a workout throughout the week. Make your health a priority. Life's too short and precious. The last thing you want to do is spend your older years in a nursing home falling, and then you can't get up. You can't pick up your grandchildren or be bedridden. I've seen it. It's not pretty, and we all can do better. Start today. Just do something. Go for a walk in the park. Go up or down the stairs. Just get up and get down from the couch. Do a little bit of a squat. Um, I'm already seeing people my age saying, "Oh, I can't do this or that because their back or their knees." Or even just straight up say I'm getting old. It's the wrong mentality. It's a defeatist mentality. We don't have room for that. Even if you're not feeling your best, you can always do something. Try to remove that limitation. If you can't run, use the rowing machine. If you can't go to the gym, go up and down your stairs. If you have a wall and a chair, you can work out and do something. And if you want me to show you how, ask and I'll make a video on it. So we're gonna end with health is wealth and the journey is the destination. So thanks for tuning in.